Hi everyone, my name is Yue and I'll be starting first year medical school at King's College London this September. Last year, I applied to 4 UK medical schools and ultimately received 3 offers. So today, I'd like to share my journey to medical school from why I decided to pursue medicine to what I did to get into medical school to why I decided on King's College London. Now, I made this video because when I was working on my application last year, I hardly knew anyone who had gone down this journey. Plus, I don't have any doctors in the family, so oftentimes I had to chart my own path, which was lonely and difficult at times. Now that I've reached the end of the application journey, I would like to share some of my experience, insight, and reflections with you. Like me, you may have a dream of becoming a doctor and you're willing to work hard to realize your aspirations, but you may not necessarily have the know-how. So I hope that my videos can give you more insight and hopefully help make your journey to medical school a tiny bit easier. I've also divided this video into different chapters, so feel free to jump around to the section that's most relevant to you. First, why I decided to pursue medicine. Growing up, I actually never thought about medicine since I didn't know anyone who was a doctor. Now that changed in 2020 with the arrival of the COVID pandemic, when I had my first exposure to medicine, no pun intended. I still remember in the early stages of lockdowns when people would bang pots and blow horns from their balconies or backyards every evening to cheer for frontline healthcare workers. That was such a sweet moment. A direct consequence of COVID lockdowns was that I suddenly had a lot of free time to myself, as I was locked up in my flat for months. During this time, I really thought about who I was and reflected on what I wanted to do with my life. I realized that I wanted to have a career in which I could make a positive contribution to society and to the people around me. Medicine stood out because as a doctor, you can make a direct and immediate impact on someone's life trajectory, whether as a GP seeing a long-time patient, a hospital consultant managing patients in your ward, a specialist in clinic, or an academic doctor dedicated to research. It didn't hurt that I was quite good at science at school, and I saw medicine as an opportunity to use the strengths that God has blessed me with to live a meaningful life. So that's my story. Now let's talk about how actually to get into medical school, starting with secondary school. I actually don't have a lot to say about this because in my opinion, it's the most straightforward part of my application. I took the most difficult science courses, studied hard, put in the effort, and ultimately got excellent grades. Here's one tip from me for all of you who are still in secondary school. If you're taking a science or maths course, the best way to score high on exams is to do practice questions. For my chemistry class, I remember doing every single mock or practice exam that I could find, and then doing the questions that I got wrong the first time round again. That way, I was able to get the top grades in that class and indeed in my other classes as well. The next piece of my application was medical work experience, which is essential to demonstrate one's commitment to medicine. When I applied for medical school, I only had 2 real-life experiences. One was at a care home when I was volunteering, and the other was some shadowing at a GP practice. And for that, I didn't actually see any patients because of confidentiality rules. Gathering work experience was quite difficult for me as I didn't have any medical connections. If you're someone like me who doesn't know any doctors and who struggle to find work experience, here's my advice. Reach out to literally everyone you know, family friends, parents, teachers, or cold emailing random doctors in your city to see if you can get any shadowing. It will unfortunately be more difficult for us, but if you want opportunities, you have to ask for them. You should also consider virtual experience. For instance, the Royal College of GPs has a free interactive platform called Observe GP, where you can get some online GP experience. Brighton and Sussex Medical School also provides a virtual work experience program. Personally, I used both of these resources, and that was quite helpful. I've linked both in the video description, so feel free to check it out. In terms of medical school applications, work experience is a qualitative, not quantitative requirement, so more isn't necessarily better. And it doesn't have to be at a hospital. I only had 1 week of experience in a strictly medical setting, and I still got into medical school. This did not disadvantage my application, so in all honesty, please don't pay for any fancy placements because that likely won't strengthen your application. In hindsight, work experience is important as an applicant for 2 reasons. Number 1, experience medicine yourself to make sure that you actually want to commit to this. And my opinion is that you should have already done enough research into medicine by the time that you've started building a portfolio for your applications. For example, watching YouTube videos of doctors seriously talking about their day-to-day life and reflecting on their careers, which is something I did since I struggled to find real-life medical experience. Number 2, you need to talk about work experience in your personal statement and interviews to show that you understand and can demonstrate the personal qualities doctors need. Therefore, the key to work experience is this. You should aim to observe as much as you can on the qualities or skills exhibited by the doctors or the healthcare staff, so that you can mention these in your application to show to medical schools that you understand what a medical career entails. With this perspective, you can actually learn a lot about what doctors do and what skills are needed to be a good clinician. Next up is the UCAT, which I think is the most challenging test that I've ever taken. The first video in my channel is on how I was able to score in the 99th percentile on the UCAT, so please check it out if you'd like any tips. Since I've already made a video about it, I won't talk too much about the UCAT here. The only thing I'd say is this. Please understand that in medical school admissions, the UCAT is the most important and in many cases the only component of your application before reaching interview stage. So please make sure you've done everything you can to prepare for it. Moving on to the personal statement. I started collecting thoughts and began writing over the summer before final year of school, and by the time summer was over, I had a final draft ready to go. I think this timeline allowed me to focus on my final year classes, so I was able to achieve the best predicted grades that I could get. I'd recommend this to you as well, since you'll have lots of time in the summer. As for the content of my statement, I talked about the following in this order. Why I wanted to study medicine, my medical work experience and what I learned, my exploration into medicine and extra reading in my spare time, and finally, my extracurricular activities like volunteering in the community at an immigrant and refugee center and serving in my church, and how these demonstrate the personal qualities that align with medicine. I think that this is a good structure to follow if you're brainstorming a statement right now and don't know where to start. My most important advice is that you want to not just show what you've done, but also, more importantly, talk about the skills you've learned and the qualities you exhibited, and how these are essential to a career in medicine. Ideally, you'd want to mention personal qualities like collaboration, critical thinking, empathy, resilience, dedication to medicine, and integrity, and show how you have demonstrated these in your personal life. Okay, here's a hot take on the personal statement. In my view, this is the most overrated component of the medical school application. Many unis will state on their website that they don't look at your personal statement, and for the few that do, it will usually be a short skim to make sure that you don't have any red flags. Very rarely will they score your statement. Even if they do, it's still a small component of your application. Your UCAT and grades are way more important. So please dedicate your time and resources accordingly. So there really is no point in paying someone £100 to just look at your statement. Getting a teacher to look over it will suffice. That's what I did, by the way. Now that I've covered all the components of my medical school application, let's talk about how I chose which medical schools to apply to. I'll be making another video on how to choose which medical schools to apply to and what factors to consider, so please keep an eye on my channel if you're interested. Anyway, I applied to 4 UK medical schools, which is the maximum you're allowed under UCAS: King's College London, Exeter, St Andrews and Cardiff. I'll now go over why I applied to each uni. So for King's College London, it's a prestigious university with fantastic affiliated hospitals. It's got a lot of research and it's in the heart of London, so I didn't hesitate at all to apply to King's. For Exeter, I didn't actually consider it until one of their representatives came to my school. I remember walking out of the presentation thinking that I quite liked Exeter. Also, in terms of student satisfaction, Exeter was ranked first in the UK last year, so I thought I'd enjoy going to a university where everyone's really happy. Now for St Andrews, it's a prestigious uni, and more importantly, they've got a special medicine program for Canadians only. For context, I have Canadian citizenship, so I thought I'd apply since I'll be in a smaller applicant pool. If you're a Canadian interested in studying medicine in the UK, I'd suggest you check out that course. the UCAS code is A990. It's a 6-year course with a BSc at St Andrews and your clinical at Edinburgh. Anyways, now on to Cardiff. At the time, I didn't know what my final choice should be, and I just randomly selected a Russell Group uni, thinking that maybe I'll enjoy living in Wales. Oh, the calculated cost is also lower. That's probably the real reason. I actually was rejected by Cardiff pre-interview without them telling me why, which was very strange given that I had a strong application and was ultimately accepted at every other medical school. So maybe it's a sign from God that I shouldn't go there. After I submitted my application in mid-October, I immediately went into interview preparation because I knew once my application was sent, the only variable in my control was my interview performance. In fact, the interview, once you finish the UCAT, is the most important factor that determines whether you get a medical school place or not. I won't talk too much about interview because I've signed non-disclosure forms agreeing not to share any information about my interview questions, procedures, or preparatory tasks, and I'd rather adhere to that. But I still have some general advice. First, please make sure to make interview preparation your priority and dedicate as much time as you can, because it really is the only crucial component of your medical school application when decisions are made. Second, I'd recommend practicing in front of a mirror and filming yourself, because your communication and delivery are as important as your content. After I finished all my interviews, I simply anxiously waited to hear back from the unis. It was definitely nerve-wracking and stressful when I received my uni decision email and had to open and read it. Thanks be to God, every medical school that interviewed me offered me a place. Now, I had to carefully weigh up my 3 offers and make a final decision. I really thought carefully, and I realized that I didn't actually know enough about any of these universities, especially the medical schools, to simply decide whether I'd enjoy being at each medical school. And all else equal, I'd rather go to a more prestigious medical school. So now I'm left with King's College London and St Andrews. Actually, I initially wanted to go to St Andrews because the overall cost would be lower, so I'd end up with less student debt. However, I changed my mind after talking to my mum about this decision. What she suggested, which I think is very wise, is to think about this. Where would I rather spend the next 5 or 6 years of my life? A small Scottish town with a population of 9,000, or a global metropolis with 9 million? Now, I've never been to or lived in Scotland, but I have for London, and I quite liked it there. Also, I've got a few friends in London, but I don't know anyone in Scotland. Most importantly, I genuinely believe that London would be a better city in terms of access to research opportunities and cutting-edge medicine, leisure activities, and diversity, especially as an ethnic minority. Also, as my mum pointed out, the medical degree at King's is 1 year shorter, so I'd start work earlier and pay off my student loans sooner. So ultimately, I chose King's College London for medical school, which concludes my medical school application journey. Now that I'm at the end of the application journey, here are some of my reflections. Number 1, applying to medical school is a very challenging journey. Many people will not be successful, and the whole process can be very stressful due to the uncertainty. That's certainly my case. There were times when I worried about not getting accepted anywhere, or felt like I didn't want to put in effort anymore because I felt hopeless. This may be you in a few months. If that happens, remind yourself of your original motivation. I'm sure at one point you dreamed of becoming a doctor and using your medical expertise to make a difference in others' lives. Use this motivation to power you. If you feel that you're simply too bored to carry on doing UCAT questions or rehearsing your interview answers for the 90th time, know this: everyone else is struggling just like you are. It's like being in a running race. Every runner is tired, but whoever puts in that extra effort can win. The reason I say this is not because your fellow applicants are somehow your opponents. They aren't. In fact, they are your future classmates and colleagues who share the same passion for medicine as you. So please, view medical school applications without a zero-sum mindset. What I want to highlight is that medicine is a competitive course, so if it is your aspiration, you have to give it all you can. It's sad that not everyone who wants to study medicine will be accepted, but that's just the nature of it. Maybe things will be easier if the government doubles medical school places, but no matter what, if you have a dream, you have to endure sacrifices in order to make your dream a reality. So I sincerely wish you the best of luck as you go through this journey. Another thing that I'd like to say is that the medical school application journey is long, arduous, and painful, and inevitably, at some point, your mental health will take a hit. For me, I turned to prayer since I'm a Christian, and I found that by praying to God, I was able to find myself more at ease and at peace. Even if you're not religious, I would suggest some form of reflection and meditation weekly or even daily to help you focus on your mental health and sustain yourself through this incredibly challenging period. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I hope watching this is somewhat useful to you in your medical school journey. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching.